call your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Who got a college chemistry award? Alexis Marsico has received a college chemistry award from the Society of Analytical Chemists of Pittsburgh. She graduated early this year with a bachelor's degree in chemistry and has a long list of accolades. Now, the reward comes with a $500 prize. That's Alexis Marsico. Big headline. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. Is there enough money to cut the grass? When you drive on the local highways, you may see high grass. This could stir the pot for many locals wondering why lawns are not being cut, and if it has anything to do with the gas prices or just an already chaotic and busy city. Now, the horrors of uncut grass span from county to county. This story made it in due to the continued drag of inflation and a very hot and tempered climate when it comes to the elections and taxpayers. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3, $86K in scholarships. Sheen Barron has a piece explaining how the Wolves Club of Youngstown will be giving away $86K in scholarship money. The article is filled with hopes and young future aspirations. Now, it's a great read for those looking for ways to invest in the lives of local youth, especially the future. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. $15 million fine. The Lisbon Morning Journal has a headline explaining how the U.S. has fined Norfolk Southern $15 million for the disastrous and distressful February 3rd train derailment in East Palestine. Now, the article goes on to explain how East Palestine, if your country, their residents feel how it explains how residents they feel now and felt at that time. It goes on and elaborates when it comes to what they feel about the Justice Department and how the Environmental Protection Agency has handled the incident thus far. Now, according to the report, they are still not happy with progress, which is very strange. Now, the piece explains how Norfolk Southern has reported $527 million in profits in the fourth quarter of last year and $53 million in the first quarter after the derailment cost. Now, they're saying that it's still making money. Now, the article also says that the railroad's CEO received $13.4 million in total compensation last year. Now, this fine is the largest allowed under the Clean Water Act. The East Palestine story is staying alive. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. Merger talks, splits, and setbacks in the headline. And on top of that, you got some other things going on in emergency crews. EMS crews have stayed in the headlines. Youngstown just realized how important emergency crews are. Canfield has also been in the merger saga after saying no to a merger with Boardman when it comes to fire crews and all that other stuff. McDonald made it in. They made it in the headlines on May 23rd after splitting police chief duties with the retirement of Police Chief Bill Woodley. Now, that's according to a report by Bob Copeland. So this story seems how it is evolving. Now, each story shows the aftermath of COVID and how local districts are dealing with setbacks when it comes to emergency crews. This stuff is not cheap, and it is becoming a big headline. That's why story number 5 is staying in the headlines. Story number 6. Rates are a topic of discussion. Mason Cole of The Vindicator has an article published May 25th about how local officials are concerned about a proposed 30% rate increase by Enbridge Gas, Ohio. Now, according to the article, if the rate hike is approved, it will cost the average residential consumer more than $100 per year. Now, the article goes on to cite some eye-boggling costs taking place in the energy market. The article is extensive and does require some knowledge of how rates are calculated and determined when looking for a fair shake in this deal. Now, the article also has some major talking points for area council members. Now, the article is very informative for those looking for better energy rates. That's why story number 6 almost made to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Earned out, creased, cleaned, checked, edited, put on the press just for you to soak it in and get some information, some knowledge. That's all I'm here for, to keep you informed. Work on my own information, making sure I'm checking myself. Story number 7. Rising taxes are on everyone's minds these days, especially those who are informed. Now, Raymond L. Smith has an article out of Warren explaining how Nikki Frenchko's goal to have commissioners vote on a moratorium against increasing property taxes failed in a 2-to-1 vote. The article lays out how property taxes and regular levies are on a lot of residents and business owners' minds. Now, the article also focuses on what some levies would do if passed, especially when it comes to senior programs. Ed Runyon also has a piece published May 25th discussing the issue and how residential property values are increasing 38% and taxes are increasing by some percentage below that as stated in the report. So they're just talking about the percentages. They're saying that taxes are going up, everything is going up. Business owners and residents can't keep up. The article, you probably have to read it word for word. Take it slow when you read it because it has a lot of data in it. Now, the article does mention high poverty as a number one factor in why residents are concerned. That means that there's not a lot of good paying jobs. So the people who are living in poverty, how are they going to pay to live? Basically, this is what the government and the people are supposed to be, the United States is supposed to provide. The story is still developing, especially when you have people on drugs and all other stuff. They have to get off drugs. How will they get an income if they can't work? Big headlines getting complicated. That's why story number 7 also made to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. For you, shake it. Clean. Do your duties. Stay informed. That's a good thing. Nothing wrong with staying informed. This show is good for you. I'm telling you. You can check things out, go through the news, and be like, oh, I didn't know that. Story number 8. The mysterious explosion in downtown Youngstown. This is big. 7 people injured. 1 Chase Bank employee, Akil Drake, found dead, according to a WFMJ news report. And 1 person unaccounted for when last checked before the airing of this show. Multiple reports have stated that there are rumors circulating that the cause of the explosion was a gas leak, but some reports say that the cause is unknown. Explosion. Gas leak? Who knows? There are a number of unanswered questions, but some obvious things remain, and that is the fact that there is a lot of major construction going on in the city, and what are the odds of one of the world's largest banks exploding, not the bank, but the bank as a whole. They had an office. What are the odds of an office exploding in a small city due to a gas leak? You also have to factor in the financial state of the city along with other critical political and economic factors currently taking place. This is a mystery, folks. This story is still developing, and it is involving a lot of people on the ground right now trying to figure it out. That's why story made to the top 2. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, I've been doing this show independently and seriously not having a lot of media passes or the story chaser atmosphere. I've learned one thing over doing this show for over a long time. I've done the show for probably over 2 years now. And I've learned that stuff happens. And the more you try to figure out how this stuff happens, the more you start to understand life is a big mystery. And you can't possibly give everybody the truth. You know, you try to find the truth, but it's very hard. And after seeing a building explode in your own city, I think the hardest part about human nature is thinking that it could never happen to you, you know. And everybody's walking around. Some people are walking around like they're just untouchable, and I think that's the most interesting thing about doing this program is, you know, someday I could be involved in something. Everybody thinks sometimes that I think human beings naturally believe that they're just untouchable, that they're some people are just selfish, you know. But when you see people come together and group together, it kind of makes you wonder, you know, there is hope. And not everybody's bad. But at the end of the day, you realize stuff just happens. How it happens is the mystery. People got to figure it out. You know, I was a kid. I used to do things, random stuff. And I would try to hide it so I wouldn't get in trouble. And that's why stuff happens. You know, people sneakily think. So when you see a building blow up in your city, you got to ask yourself, did somebody blow it up? These are just speculations. You got to ask yourself this stuff because this doesn't just happen every day. You know, you're sitting in the living room and you just boom, and a gas leak? Where'd the gas come from? Who provided the leak? Did somebody make a mistake? Who gonna come out and admit when they need to live, need a job, need to make money? Who gonna admit they made a mistake? And then when you get caught, who's going to admit? You get caught red-handed. You still don't want to be guilty? That is the biggest question this week. When stuff happens, who going to find out? Who did it? But that's why they say only God knows. But the truth will come out. Hopefully. If it don't, somebody will get off scot-free. Let's waste no time, folks. Whew. That's our story for this week. I got a song for you. Stuff happens. Who's gonna admit that they did it when something goes wrong? Let's waste no time, folks. Somebody did something wrong, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. College question. The college question. Big question. College is expensive. It's hard. Sports is expensive. Sports is hard. Young people need education, but money is tight, folks. Can't afford it. The loans are expensive. You don't want to be in debt. This is according to a USA Today report, fueling the new narrative, steering people away from investing into a higher education. The report says that people without degrees have seen their earnings increase in the last decade, and people who are with the degrees are getting a little bit not just jealous, but they're just getting concerned. Where's my money? Now, this entire topic has mixed reviews. It means there's a lot of mixed emotions, mixed feelings, and everything. The entire piece shows a seesaw debate that may just depend on how students approach the deal and how hard they're willing to work to invest in themselves. The story is still developing. I just say pick up a book, read it. If you can't afford an education, go to the library, read, try to figure out something. I do that all the time. I've made it a practice. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. Italy has something to say about the violence in Gaza. Reuters has a piece published May 27 stating that Italy says violence against civilians in Gaza is no longer justifiable. This is a huge statement as more eyes turn towards the Israel, how they're handling the war. Now, doctors rushing in have labeled this situation the worst they've ever seen, many of them. The latest Israeli airstrikes in the southern Gaza Strip city of Rafah that killed at least 35 Palestinians and wounded dozens is what got the story in and still has it staying alive. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. Has America learned anything about tracking storms? We have cell phones, radios, TVs, sirens, and even computers. These are all devices that warn us when something catastrophic is headed our way. One CNN report says that at least one person was killed after 600,000 Texans went without power after a powerful storm. Now, the storm unloaded hurricane-force winds and 40 miles. The storm was 40 miles northwest of Houston. I got it right now. Now, the question now is, this is on a national scale, is how effective is the emergency network notifications? Now, the answer is extremely effective. And even in a day where many parents may not want their children to have a cell phone, the data shows that phones have proven to be the most effective lifesavers in present time. That's why story number 3 made it this week, because everybody needs a radio, big. Story number 4. Myanmar is back in the headlines. Why does this matter? Al Jazeera says that 45,000 Rohingya have fled Myanmar and amid allegations of beheadings and burnings. How sick is that? Now, the UN Rice Chief Volker Turk is urging Bangladesh and other countries to provide effective protection to the latest refugee saga. They're running from people who are trying to kill everybody. Now, the piece explains how violence is escalating. Now, why this is taking place has painted a picture of another genocide revelation, folks. This story is still developing. Story number 4 made it this week. More refugees, more border policies in other countries. Big headline. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brother West. I'll be right back. Tune in to Method Ace YouTube channel to check out the top interviews that made it throughout the years and months. Visit method8.com. Check out all the community interviews if you want to check it out. Method8.com. Buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, there's a lot going on in the news. We're getting ready for another presidential election, and you see Trump on TV quite a bit, and it's a big question on whether he's guilty or not guilty. I just couldn't believe when I saw Ben Carson on TV. Everybody who seems to be either in Trump's circle or seems to be getting, the hammer thrown at him. So everybody's on this political seesaw battle, and I really don't know who I'm going to vote for. I'm still undecided. I really don't know whose policies can fix this country right now, but I have been tuning in, and the more I look and see, it's kind of sad how we went from distinguished to two congressional members fighting about their eyelashes on the congressional floor. So I've just gotten to the point to where I'm just going to sit back, report, mediate, and decipher who's informed and who's not informed, who's awoke and who's not awoke, because there's some truths on both sides. There's some facts on both sides, but just like I said in the last discussion, is nobody is going to admit when they're wrong. So this week, I've decided that here's a song. I've decided to present a song to help people understand why nobody wants to admit when they're wrong. When you're wrong, yeah, you got to go to jail, face 20 to 5. Even if you admit to the judge, you got to pay a fine. Down on y'all, your freedom is gone. When you're wrong, you get punished. That's why people won't admit when they're wrong, because they got to lie to get ahead. When you're wrong, let's waste no time, folks. Who knows who's wrong? Is Biden wrong? Is Trump wrong? Nobody's going to admit it. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to story number 5 in June. Welcome to June. Israel is divided when it comes to the war. Who's wrong? We're in the 9th month of the Israel-Gaza war, and no one has come from the sky to save us all yet. Hopefully somebody does soon. The Guardian says that if anything, the war has deeply divided the entire world when it comes to faith and even Israel. The article mentions how morale is dropping as talks to free hostages are collapsing and more people are believing that total victory over Hamas is impossible. The deck now has so many foes, and tattooed uninformed voters are over the place. Satanists, this is all of the foe. You have Satanists, you have Jewish supremacists, Donald Trump fanatics, Biden enthusiasts, Hamas lovers, and a busload of other tribes fighting for their place in the history books. The fact is that at the end of the day, innocent people are dead, and there's been nothing but more chaos as a result of it. Folks, this story is staying alive for that specific reason, because there seems to be no solution for those who would never admit when they're wrong. Story number 5, big. Story number 6, the housing fight is complicated. Let me make sure I get that right. The Washington Post has a piece out of Milwaukee aiming the spotlight on public housing. The article talks about violence, mice in buildings, and the fact that the conditions while living in public housing have stayed under the radar for far too long. The entire piece is filled with testimonials from drug deals to bed bugs, infestations. The voting group is how it got the story in, because it will be they'll be watching the next election, because the next president will have to please this voting base also. The entire article, written by Jose A. Del Real and was published May 25th, is filled with testimonials, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number 6 almost made to the top 2 this week. Big head. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you, to keep you informed. That is all I am here for, folks. Nothing special. I'm not a magician. I'm not going to make things disappear, but I will do my best to find a story to keep you informed. Story number 7. The Biden economy is causing a stir. Biden is losing when it comes to America's prized possession, and that is money. The Hill has a headline published May 28th titled that even Biden's most reliable voters can't get past the economy, and new polling shows the president's approval rating is at its lowest level in almost 2 years, amid growing economic pessimism and declining support, as stated in the report. Now, the number says that only 36% 66% now approve of Biden's job performance. The article focuses on all ethnic groups. The story is still developing headed into another election. That's why story number 7 also made to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 at the top. International headline and developing news story that made this week for you in this new month of June 2024. So you will stand firm and confess if you want to. But most people won't confess. Sometimes I don't even admit when I'm wrong. But I've learned from watching shows and from my elementary teacher, Mrs. Rosati and Miss Tucson, that it's okay to be honest. And to be honesty sometimes is okay. You don't have to lie all the time. Story number 8. That's why you got to admit sometimes. But it's hard when you know the consequences. But it's all right. You got to be brave. Story number 8. The timeline that has led to current events. Let's admit what's going down. At the end of the day, many may ask, how did we get to this point? So let's start with the Obama election years ago, which unleashed a wave of racial battles and an old spell of hope and change. Then we have the Trump election, which somewhat fanned more fuel on the fire. Now, in the midst of Trump's plan to save America, a huge conspiracy against China then unfolded after a deadly virus shut everything down. Now, things got so bad that Trump's somewhat odd momentum to isolate America from the rest of the world while getting everyone to pay up somehow landed Trump just a 4-year term and a battle for another presidential run while facing court charges and some other accusations. Now, the entire sequence of events has led to a did lead to a racial riot with Black Lives Matter and a riot on the grounds of the Capitol, if we do recall. Now, in a divided world, the obvious is that whatever has been taking place behind closed doors for years has surfaced into a domestic problem that has now forced a lot of people to want nothing to do with politics and everything to do with we the people, if they are informed. Now, either way, the country is polarized. The polarization is real. The story is still developing, but it kind of gets you to understand the current state of events. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your stories just to keep people informed. If you want to show us some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Mormon, Ohio. Buy something in the store, shake my hand, tell me how crazy I am, or how good I am, or how whatever. Compliments do help. If you don't like me, just tell me. I'll get over it. Well, folks, that's our show for this week. Welcome to June. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.